Hello and welcome back to this video where we are going to look at the 2021 CSEC Chemistry Paper 1 for May-June. Alright, so let us begin. The particles in a gas have strong forces between them, are very closely packed together, can move in any direction, or they get larger when heated. And the best answer is C. Remember, gas molecules, their motions are random, and so they bounce in each other and bounce in the walls of the container and they bounce all over the place randomly. Question 2. The mass number of an element is the number of protons plus neutrons. All right, so that's C. Question 3. The arrangement of electrons in atoms of X and Y are 2, 8, 5 and 2, 8, 6 respectively. Which of the following represents X and Y? So based on the valence electrons of X and Y, they are nonmetals. They are both nonmetals because their valence electrons fall between 4 and 7. And so both are nonmetals. The answer is B. Question 4. Sulfur and oxygen are in the same group of the periodic table because the electronic configuration for oxygen is 2, 6. The electronic configuration for sulfur is 2, 8, 6. Sulfur is just below oxygen in the periodic table, so you know that a shell, a completely filled shell separates them. And they are in the same group because they have the same number of valence electrons. And so the answer is C. Item 5 refers to the following diagram in which X represents the symbol of a positive ion. Okay, question 5. Which of the following pairs represent the number of neutrons and electrons in X? So the atomic number, which is also the number of protons, equal to 20. The number of electrons for the neutral atom is also 20. The number of protons, the number of neutrons is 20, because if you subtract 20 from the mass number, you get the number of neutrons. Now, for a 2+ ion, which is given here, tell us that this element lost 2 electrons. So if it lost 2 electrons, that means 18 electrons remain, and they want the number of neutrons and the number of electrons for the ion. And so that is 20 neutrons, 18 electrons. That's D. Question 6. An element X has 8 electrons in its outer shell. Which of the following diagrams are possible isotopes of X? Isotopes, we know that they have the same amount of protons and electrons, right? But different number of neutrons. Okay, so for A, electrons and protons are the same. For the other part of A, electrons, protons are the same, but the neutron number, it is different. For B, it has the same, well, the number of protons is different from the number of neutrons, so that cannot be an isotope. The same thing for C. For this part here, the electrons and the protons are not equal. For D, the electrons and the protons are not equal, so A is the answer here. Question 7. From which of the following substances can a solid be obtained by the process of sedimentation? And sedimentation, where you have these particles settling at the bottom of a container beaker, and suspension is an example of such. Suspension is how you can obtain a sedimentation type process. Question 8. The mass of 1 mole of atoms of an element refers to an element which contains 6.02 times 10 to the 23 atoms, which is the Avogadro's number or constant. Question 9. Which of the following terms describe calcium chloride? Calcium chloride is Ca2 plus and Cl minus. These opposite charge ions interact with each other to form the ionic structure or the ionic compound, and so that is A. Question 10. Which of the following diagrams illustrates the course of an exothermic reaction? For an exothermic reaction, delta H must be negative, and in order for delta H to be negative, it must satisfy this equation where the enthalpy, the change in enthalpy, equal to the sum of the product, the energy of the products minus the energy of the products minus the sum of the energy of the reactants. Now, for us to get a negative value, the energy of the reactants must be greater than the energy of the products. For example, if the product is 2 and the reactant is, let's say, 7, then an overall value of -5 will be obtained for an exothermic process. So the energy of the reactant must be higher than the energy of the product, and that is A. Items 11 refers to the following types of substances: alkali, base, salt, acid. Question 11. Which of the following substances above can be described as the oxide of a metal? And if you can recall, the non-metal, they form the acidic oxides. The metal, they form the basic oxides. All right, so it is B. Number 11 is B. Question 12. Which of the following ions requires the largest number of moles of electrons to liberate from 1 mole of it? So aluminum is Al3 plus. It needs 3 electrons to form the aluminum metal. So it requires 3 electrons, 3 moles of electrons. So that's D. And an atom has 20 electrons. When it ionizes, it has the same electronic configuration as, so let us write the electronic configuration for an atom with 20 electrons. And when it ionizes, it has this electronic configuration. And this represents, is it argon or neon? And remember that elements want to lose or gain electrons and share to have a stable configuration, right? And that stable configuration resembles the noble gases, okay? And so in this case, 288 would be the electronic configuration for argon. All right. Question 14. The mass concentration of potassium chloride solution is 60 grams per dm cube. What is the mass of potassium chloride in 25 centimeter cubed of this solution? So we have our stock solution, right? And inside of it we have 60 grams per dm cube of this potassium chloride. And so you pipette 25 cm cube, and within that 25 cm cube you want to know what mass is present. Okay, so what we know that 60 grams contain in 60 grams or in 1000 cm cube, we convert dm cube to cm cube because it's easier to work with. So 1000 cm cube will contain 60 grams of potassium chloride. Then after we pipette 25 cm cube, what mass will be in that? We don't know. So we cross multiply and make x the subject. So x equal to 60 grams multiplied by 25 cm cube divided by 1000 cm cube. Cm cube cancel cm cube, so your answer will be in grams. and so 0 cancels 0, right? So this is 0, so this is 1, 2, 0.06 multiplied by 25, and that is equal to 1.5 grams. Okay, so the answer is C. Question 15. Which of the following elements exhibit allotropy? Without much fuss, we know that is carbon. Item 16 refers to the following information, WXY. Which two elements above, when combined, form mainly ionic compound? And we can write out the electronic configuration, because we know that ionic compounds are formed from the interaction between a metal and a non-metal. Alright, X is most likely carbon. Well, X is carbon, okay, and W is lithium and chlorine, so that's lithium chloride, so WY would be the answer there. 17. The number of shared electron pairs in the methane molecule is, before you attempt to answer, just write out the structure of methane. We know that meth is one carbon, ane is an alkane, so it is CH4, and they also gave you the structure, the molecular formula there. In each bond we find 2 electrons. A bond has the maximum of 2 electrons and a minimum of 2 electrons. So if it's not 2 electrons, it is not a bond, and the question asks shared electron pairs. So how many electron pairs we see here? 1, 2, 3, 4. So there are 4 electron pairs. So the answer is A. Number 18. Which of the following substances, when added to pure water, significantly increases the water's conductivity? If we go back to our solubility table, you will find that all hydroxides are insoluble except sodium, potassium, and ammonium. Okay, so if we add copper hydroxide and iron hydroxide to water, we won't find much iron in the free state moving around to conduct any electricity. Graphite is a solid and it conducts electricity in its solid state, so that wouldn't increase the electrical conductivity of water, right? But sodium chloride, common salt, which is extremely soluble in water, if we add it to water, then the sodium ions and the chloride ions will be free and about to carry the electric charge or the electric current, and so that increases the electrical conductivity of water. All right, so the answer is sodium chloride. Question 19. A solution having a pH of 1 will neutralize a solution of pH 4. First of all, if a solution is pH 1, it means that it is acidic. So would it neutralize a solution that is pH 4? Remember, under 7 means that it is acidic as well. So you're adding an acid to another acid. That would neutralize anything, right? React with zinc metal to produce hydrogen. We know that metals react with acid to produce the salt of the metal and hydrogen gas. Okay, we know that. So we know that B is the answer, but let us look at C so that we can justify why B is our answer. React with zinc metal to produce a solution of pH 10. No, the salt is formed and hydrogen gas, and the pH don't increase to 10 in that case. React with hydrochloric acid, again an acid with another acid, so D is way off. All right, question 20. Which of the following oxides react with both acid and bases? The name of compounds that behave as acid and base, they are called amphoteric compounds. Amphoteric compounds. And the 3 amphoteric elements are lead, Pb lead, zinc, and aluminum. What this means that if they are in the presence of an acid, they behave as a base. If they are in the presence of a base, they behave like an acid. So we call them amphoteric, showing both acid and basic acid and base properties, right? Acidic and basic properties. And so lead is representing for its amphoteric partners here in this case. Sorry, aluminum is representing for its amphoteric partners in this case. So it's aluminum oxide. 21. Barium is below calcium in group 2 of the periodic table. When these two metals react with water, the main difference observed is, so we know that in that particular group and in other groups in general, the reaction tend to increase as we go down the group. Why? Because the outer shell where most of reaction takes place, that's where they take place because anyways, they are moving further away from the nucleus, right? The attraction of the nucleus, and so the nucleus has a weaker pull on these valence electrons, and if they can easily give up the electron, that means that they are very reactive, and so that would increase the rate of the reaction also, right? So it's the rate of the reaction in that case. Item 22 refers to 1 mole of each of the following acid: sulfuric acid, vinegar or acetic acid or ethanoic acid, and oxalic acid. So let me quickly write the structure of oxalic acid for those of you who aren't so sure. C double bond O, pardon me, OH. C double bond O, OH. Right, so you see that oxalic acid can release 1 mole of oxalic acid can release 2 moles of H plus in solution. Sulfuric acid can also release 2 moles of H plus in solution per mole of sulfuric acid. Vinegar can release 1 mole of H plus for every 1 mole of vinegar. All right, and the question 22, for question 22, which of the acids above would require more than 1 mole of sodium hydroxide for complete neutralization? Right, and if we were to write the neutralization reaction, sodium hydroxide plus sulfuric acid, that produce sodium sulfate, which is the salt, and water. And to balance the sodium, we need 2 moles of sodium, and it's the same principle for the oxalic acid. However, for vinegar, it's only 1 mole of sodium hydroxide is required. So to answer the question, it is 1 and 3. 1 and 3, so that's B. Question 23. The pH of fresh sugar cane juice, which is usually 5.0 to 5.5, can be changed to 7.5, between 7.5 and 8 for more efficient processing by adding. So it's under 7, so we know that it is acidic, so we need to add a base. Okay, sodium chloride is a salt that will not affect the pH. Ethanoic acid or vinegar or acetic acid is an acid that would decrease the pH. We want something that will increase the pH. Limestone, it's slightly basic, but it will not affect the pH as greatly as slake lime, which is a strong base, calcium hydroxide, and so that will increase the pH from 5.5 to anywhere between 7.5 in this case. All right, so that's for 23. 24, an example of a substance with a giant covalent structure, we know that is diamond, without hesitating. All right. Item 25 refers to the following sequence of reactions involving iron compounds where 1, 2, 3, and 4 represent progressive stages in the sequence. In which stage is the oxidation state of iron increased? All right, so we can see that iron increase here. The carbonate ion is 2 minus. That means iron is plus 2 here in this case. FeO. So iron is also +2 right here. Oxygen is 2 minus. Here iron is now 3 plus, +3, and oxygen is 2 minus. So we can see that iron moved from a +2 to a +3. And one of the definitions for oxidation is an increase in oxidation number, right? Or increase in oxidation state. So it increased from +2 to 3. So from FeO to Fe2O3, and so that is B. All right. 26. Which of the following factors will usually increase the rate of catalytic decomposition of hydrogen peroxide? So we know that hydrogen peroxide is an aqueous mixture. What are the factors that affect rate of reaction? Temperature, pressure for gases, concentration for aqueous mix, surface area, and catalyst, right? So let us go through all of these. Increasing the temperature will increase the rate of the reaction. Applying a greater external pressure, it is not a gas, so it is not applicable in this case. Using a layer of volume of hydrogen peroxide, that does not affect the rate of reaction. Using the catalyst in lumps rather than in powder, as a matter of fact, if it were the reverse, then we would have to consider it, right? So if once we increase the surface area, we know that the rate of reaction will increase because of the larger surface area that is available. So the best answer is A, increase the temperature. The molecules now possess more energy to move about faster, and so moving about faster would result in more frequent collision. More frequent collision result in an increased rate of the reaction. All right. 27. A separatory funnel can be used to separate a mixture of. So we know that a sep funnel is used to separate two immiscible liquid, or liquids that are of different densities. Okay. Water and ethanol, that's a mixture, right? These two mix very nicely. Water and kerosene. Kerosene is an oil, so we know that the kerosene will sit above the water. Water and solid sodium chloride, this would become a solution. Kerosene oil and solid chloride, this is also a solution. So the answer is B, water and oil, which are two immiscible mixtures, two immiscible liquids. 28. Which of the following substances does not conduct electricity? And we know that ethanol doesn't conduct electricity. Ethanoic acid, because of the release of H+ ion in solution, it forms the ethanoate ion and the H+, the hydroxonium ion, H+. And so once the ions are available, then you will see the electricity flowing through the wires. It may be weak, but nonetheless the electricity will still flow. All right. Copper, we know, so those are what run our electrical cords and so forth, devices, lead batteries and so forth. So the best answer is C. 29. Which of the following energy changes occurs during the breaking of a chemical bond? So all you have to do for this is take a pencil in your hand and try to force it in two, try to break it in two. And you realize that you have to put in energy to break the pencil, right? So imagine that pencil representing a bond. In order to break a bond, you have to supply energy. All right, so energy is required. So 29 is B. Question 30. Which of the following terms describes starch? And we know that starch, starch is a polymerization reaction, right, between glucose and so forth. Okay. So starch is a macromolecule, a macromolecular structure. 31. Which of the following substances is an important constituent of chlorophyll? So if you were to look at the structure of chlorophyll, you see that magnesium smack right in the middle, where you have some nitrogen attached to it and other compounds surrounding the magnesium, looking like that. So magnesium is what holds the structure of chlorophyll together, just like how iron holds or binds hemoglobin. 32. Which of the following pairs of reagents or reagents will result in the formation of a yellow precipitate? And we have seen this reaction or this process when looking at qualitative analysis, where we add the lead chloride, the potassium iodide to the unknown solution, and if a yellow PPT form, we know that lead is present. Okay. 33. How many covalent bonds are there in a nitrogen molecule? And if you draw the nitrogen molecule, right, you will see that, and each bond contains 2 electrons, a pair of electrons, right? So there are 3 pairs. 34. Which of the following observation is expected when aqueous silver nitrate is added to aqueous potassium chloride? Again, to qualitative analysis, to test the presence of the chloride ion, we add silver nitrate and potassium chloride, and we will get the PPT of silver chloride, which is a white precipitate. Item 35 refers to the following table, which shows the reaction of 4 metals, W, X, Y, and Z, with water or steam. The table also shows the products formed when nitrates of the metal are heated. And so we have the reaction there. W is everything that is below hydrogen. We can tell you that for sure. All right, so for example, silver, copper, gold, mercury, those elements that are below hydrogen in the electrochemical series. X reacts with steam but not with cold water, and so that is between aluminum. X is aluminum to iron. Y reacts rapidly with cold water, but this can only be one of 2 elements. It's either potassium or sodium. Sodium and potassium nitrate, when they are decomposed, they form the metal nitrite and oxygen gas. All the others form the metal oxide, nitrogen dioxide, and oxygen gas. Okay, so that was a giveaway. Z reacts slowly with cold water, and this is between calcium and magnesium. All right, so 35 is asking which of the metals above is likely to form a soluble hydroxide. Again, all hydroxides are insoluble except sodium, potassium, and ammonium. All right, so right away we know that it is Y, because Y would be a representation of sodium and potassium. 36. Which of the following are features of metals? 1. Form basic oxides. True. 2. Form solid chlorides. True. 3. Conduct electricity when molten. True. So it is 1, 2, and 3. So that's D. 37. Which of the following procedures can be used to identify ammonia gas? And we know that ammonia is a base, a specific base, which is what we call an alkali. So alkalis are specific base, meaning that they dissolve in water, right? There are some other bases that do not dissolve in water, but the ones that dissolve in water, we call them alkalis, to be specific. Okay, now ammonia will turn they will turn red litmus paper to blue. All right, so the best way to determine, and it also has a pungent odor, so placing red and blue litmus paper at the jar and to observe the color change, which is A. 38. Glucose is converted to starch or cellulose by, and we know that that is a condensation reaction. 39. A solution becomes green when treated with the gas sulfur dioxide. The solution contains potassium dichromate. Potassium permanganate is purple, and it would move from purple to colorless if it were potassium permanganate. But potassium dichromate, which is orange, when it undergoes reduction, because it's an oxidizing agent, when it undergoes reduction, it changes from orange to green. Which of the following aqueous solutions will produce a blue precipitate with aqueous sodium hydroxide? All nitrates are soluble. Hence, we have that there, where we have the two solutions. However, we know that copper will form a blue color. This would be a double displacement reaction. And so you will form copper hydroxide and sodium nitrate, and the copper hydroxide will have a blue color that they are referring to, blue precipitate that they are referring to, given that copper hydroxide is also insoluble in water. 41. In which of the following processes is sulfur used? We know that sulfur is used in the vulcanization of rubber. It is used to make explosive, but we did not see sulfur in the extraction of iron from its ore. So it's 1 and 2. 42. Which of the following methods can be used in the extraction of aluminum? Remember, when we're extracting aluminum, if you can recall, rather, we added cryolite to, 1, lower the melting point of aluminum oxide, and 2, to dissolve aluminum oxide, because aluminum oxide is insoluble in water. Okay, so you need a mixture that would allow the aluminum ions and the hydroxide ions to be separated. Cryolite did that, and so the electrolysis of the oxide in its molten state, all right, would be the answer for 42. 43. When copper carbonate is heated alone in a dry test tube, a gas is evolved and a black residue is formed. The black residue is copper oxide. We know that carbonates decompose to form the metal oxide and carbon dioxide. And so if carbon dioxide is produced, carbon dioxide is an acidic oxide, so it will have an effect on litmus paper, right? But the litmus paper that they have is red. We should have red to blue, which is not the test for carbon dioxide, given that it's an acidic oxide. It would be blue to red, so that is not there, so the litmus paper is out. Oxygen relights the glowing splint, and sulfur dioxide decolorizes KMnO4, and for a white precipitate formed from calcium hydroxide, which is lime water. So carbon dioxide turns lime water milky, or a white precipitate forms, which is D. 44. Which of the following reactions is least likely to occur? All right, so for this, let us quickly write the reactivity series: sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, aluminum, then you have zinc, iron, Pb lead, hydrogen, mercury, silver, you have some gold, copper. Where's copper? Copper right after hydrogen. Okay, all right. Which one is least likely to occur? And we know, if you can recall, that you can only displace an element if you are above it. If it is above, if it's below you in the reactivity series, so any element that is below an element, it can displace it. Okay, so potassium can displace all these elements in a reaction, right? But none of these elements can displace potassium. Okay, so let us look and see. Let us look and see which one is more feasible, or the most feasible. So can iron displace copper? Iron can displace copper. Can it? Yes, because iron is above copper, so it can move copper from this. Can lead displace iron? No, lead is below iron, so it cannot displace it. So this cannot happen. Can copper displace silver? Copper cannot displace silver because, yes, copper can displace silver because it is above silver. All right, so this can happen. Can magnesium displace zinc? Magnesium can displace zinc because magnesium is above zinc. All right, so this will occur, this will, and this will occur. Which of the following reaction is least likely to occur? And the least one is B. So that's the one we're looking for. All right, 45. Which compound, the compound CH3, CH2, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is butanol, is called 1-butanol. Why not 4-butanol? Well, you always start from the, you always give the oxygen the lowest, the OH group the lowest priority. All right, or the lowest, the carbon that has the lowest number. 46. Which of the following structures represent a molecule of but2ene, which means that the double bond starts at carbon 2. Right here, this one for B, the double bond starts at carbon 1. This one, this is a diene, and we are looking for only one double bond. This is this is propene, this is 3 carbon, we are looking for a 4 carbon, so the answer is A. And you see that the double bond, whichever side you start counting from, the double bond starts at carbon 2. All right, 47. Which of the following features is not true of all homologous series of compounds? The members of a series have the same functional group, that is true, the same general formula, that is true, similar chemical properties, but this is not true. So that's D. 48. Which of the following reactions occurs between propene and bromine? So propene being an alkene and bromine a halide, it's an addition reaction. So the bromine Br2 is added across the double bond to form the dihaloalkane. All right. 49. Which of the following compounds can decolorize potassium permanganate? And this is used as an indication for the presence of a double bond, because the double bond will decolorize potassium permanganate to colorless. You know, you can see potassium is so useful across these identification tests because of its distinctive color. So the answer for that is A. 50. The functional group present in carboxylic acid is C double bond OH. 51. When large alkane molecules are cracked, the products are a mixture of a small alkane molecules only, small alkene molecules only, large and small alkane molecules, or small alkane and alkene molecules. And so we know that D would be the answer. 52. The compound which has the formula here that is given is an alkene, a polymer carboxylic acid, or an unsaturated acid. It's A. 53. The main substances responsible for acid rain: sulfur dioxide and sulfur trioxide. 54. The major natural source of alkanes and alkenes is petroleum. Natural gas is a source of alkane, specifically methane, butane, propane, ethane, those smaller alkane. But petroleum, you know, because of the cracking and you can get both alkene and alkane, would be a natural source for them. Items 55 to 56 refer to the following equation, right? So we have the organic acid plus the alcohol to give the ester plus water, all right? Then 55 asked, the forward reaction is known as, so this is an esterification reaction. And the reverse reaction is known as hydrolysis. That's how you take the ester to its starting materials, whether acid hydrolysis or basic hydrolysis. 57. Hexane has the formula C4H16. Which of the following statements is true about hexane? It is a covalent compound. We can draw the structure of hexane to show you the hydrogen sharing with the carbons. Alright, so it is a covalent compound. It is an unsaturated covalent compound. Hexane does not contain any double bonds, so this is not true. It belongs to a group of compounds known as alkanes, so this is true and this is true. So it's 1 and 3, 1 and 3. So that is B. 58. The fermentation of sugars using glucose as the substrate can be represented by the equation. All right, so we know that sugars are fermented to the alcohol and carbon dioxide. So we have to, so we can quickly scan to see if there are any alcohols on the product side. So there's no alcohol here, no alcohol here. We see an alcohol here, no alcohol here. So most likely it is C. Okay. 59. The disadvantage of using a soapless detergent is that it is non-biodegradable. 60. Which of the following gases will give a positive test with dry cobalt chloride? And cobalt chloride is used to test for leaking. You know, if there are any leaking in, so let's say you're doing construction, you put up pipes, and before you do any further work, you add some cobalt chloride. And if the cobalt paper turns from blue to pink, it will indicate that water is present. So D would be the answer. Alright, so we have come to the end of this 2021 CSEC Chemistry Paper 1 questions. Good luck on your exam and see you real soon.